Welcome back to the SilmFilm script discussion, season 3, episode 5, part 4. We are getting close to the halfway point, which is awesome. We're in Act 2 of this episode. We have Telkar arriving and being met by Norn and Celeborn. He wants to know a little bit more about these people that he's going to be supplying weapons to. I think he's going to see the weapons that they've been using and kind of give Norn a look like, what do you want me to do with this?
Yeah, he should not be impressed with their craftsmanship.
Yeah. Dwarves probably look down on bows for several reasons. One, they don't really work for them. Physics just makes a bow less effective in the hands of a dwarf than it would be in the hands of somebody else. Not because they're not strong enough.
No, it's the loss of height over distance. Yeah.
Right. They're not able to pull the bow string back as far. So in any given bow, they are operating at like 66% efficiency. So even if they increase the draw weight of the bow, which would be nice, and one imagines that because the dwarves have bows in the Hobbit, they because they try to do some hunting in Mirkwood, but even if they were like, if they somehow managed to squeeze a 90-pound bow into something this long, it's still something that if somebody was strong enough could pull it back further, it would be more effective.
Yeah, so there's some physics things there where the elves would be better at bows. But
right.
I think that the dwarves would consider bows useful for hunting, but not as like a weapon.
Right.
Kind of thing.
I mean, we're going to see that the elves are going to really perfect bows as a weapon, as a battlefield weapon.
Right.
In this series, but the dwarves never really are. I have mentioned before the idea that if the dwarves can't be completely devoid of ranged weapons, otherwise they'll get massacred.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So they're going to have to invent some sort of crossbow at some point. But we can talk about that later in another context. But basically he's looking at a collection of stone hunting spears and knives, bows that are flint or at best obsidian tipped. He knows that against his own people these weapons would be completely useless, because the dwarves by this point have already invented mail. But it's established that he's going to be the one that's not I mean, obviously he's not going to pump out every weapon that they are going to be using, but he's going to be kind of supervising this.
Well, he's a young dwarf at this point.
That's true. That's true.
He could come with his master.
Okay.
And his master could be the one who's much more
like, this is impossible. There's no way.
Much more dismissive. And Telkar would be like, okay, yeah, that stuff sucks, but we could totally do something for these people. I mean, they know how to use these weapons. We just need to give them better materials. So Telkar could have the right attitude that's going to be helpful, and the other dwarves who are with him are like, what do you want?
Yeah. We can totally work with this. It's fine. And he's going to, one would imagine that they're going to provide the Sindar with hundreds of thousands of metal arrowheads. he could even kind of almost invent bodkin points on the fly. That would be because if you think about it, this is something the dwarves haven't really considered as a
weapon,
as a viable weapon,
right?
And he finds a way to make that happen.
Okay.
Like, on the fly. Like, this shows like who this guy is going to be.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. He doesn't. We don't have to call it out or anything like that. But just to say.
Well, he's looking at the Sindar arrowheads and seeing what they have, and instead of just replicating the same thing but in metal, he makes something new and different. Yeah. And we can even see that
if we made it out of metal, but if it were longer and narrower, it might. They might be able to get it to pierce armor. Like, he can say things like that.
Right. He's thinking in the terms of a craftsman of how do I develop the best thing here, not just saying, I've already made this before, I'll just pump some out for you guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
And working with what they have. Like, they know how to use bows, so why not?
Right. But primarily they're going to be getting them because they don't need to make them bows.
No, just the arrowheads.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and obviously the Sindar can make their own arrows. They're good with that.
Yeah. Not to mention the Sindar can probably, and he can tell them, he can look at the bows they've been using and say, these need to be bigger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could use them, but they need to be bigger.
Right. If you want to have the strength to defeat an armored opponent, that's different than hunting.
Yeah. So he essentially is going to invent war bows and bodkin points
for the Sindar.
I like it.
Okay. And I wanted him to do something that wasn't named yet, because we know the 3 named items that he makes that become famous, but I wanted to introduce him before I didn't want his first scene to be like, watch me make the thing I'm going to be famous for. Like,
right. No, I agree. I wanted
to do character development with him first. So I like this.
Yeah. And he could basically, like, be kind of, it would be interesting if during, like, because obviously at some point there's going to need to be like a Robin Hood Prince of Thieves training and arming montage.
Well, sure.
Not saying that it needs to be like that, but like there needs to be some kind of visual indication that this is happening.
Right.
And we could see him presenting Beleg with Beleg's strong bow.
Yes, Belthranding. I think Belthranding? Something like that.
He doesn't need to have made it. He shouldn't have made it.
Right, I was about to say, I don't want that to be dwarf made. That should be
the elves. He's with the elves who are making it,
right.
And Beleg is there, and he picks it up and gives it to Beleg.
Yeah, like, try this one out.
And they could even be like armored targets. Like the dwarves can have set up armored targets,
and Beleg's able to do the armor piercing.
Yes,
that with the right bow and the right arrow, he's good to go.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Okay, so if we have that as Telkar's storyline, how quickly does that happen? Is that all in Act?
Okay. So I'm thinking that this is happening in parallel with the discovery of Menegroth, which the discovery of Menegroth is going to take place in Act 4.
Okay. So
how else? You have to.
Yeah. So Norn would have gone back to Belegost and gotten permission to do some kind of building project for the elves. Like, let's make them some basic defensive things. And they say, well, they at least have a river running through their forest, so let's try to use the river as one natural barrier. And then, maybe we can build 3 walls, around it or something. Like, so they're looking for a spot along the river when they find the cave. Like, they weren't planning on digging a cave. They were planning on building like stockade or something. I don't know what they were
Right.
planning, but like so it has the again. So natural progression for Norn's storyline is bringing in the builders, looking for the site, and then in Act 4 actually discovering Menegroth.
Yeah.
Now, question: do we show Norn's return to Belegost?
I don't think we need to.
Okay.
I'm thinking that this is all this
is all indoor.
That, right. That all the stuff that we're getting is after that's happened.
Okay. So Norn is going to be interacting mostly with Celeborn and Mablung because he was friends with Mablung first.
That's true.
And then Beleg is hanging out with Telkar. Is that how we're?
Well, I would say that maybe Mablung and Beleg are hanging out, are like together, more often than not in this episode.
Right. That would make sense. So they could be visiting both groups. Like that can be our transition between some of them. Mablung and Beleg, check on these doors, and Mablung and Beleg, check on the other doors.
Yeah. Okay. So okay. So we get so then we go okay. Telkar's master shows disapproval for the elves' weapons.
Right. He can even call them primitive if he wants to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very dismissive. Because if they're a Stone Age culture and the dwarves have steel, like
yeah. Yeah, a little bit. Telkar suggests some improvements on the theme. Okay, so then we have to get our we have to get the surveying party. Or no, you know what we should do before we do the surveying party is we should get Luthien and Dairon working on the panic problem.
Yes.
But how?
Okay, so she's already gone to Melian to say, what do I do? Right? Or did she just see people panicking in the first?
No, she. I think that she saw that there was panic spreading, and she went to Melian to ask for guidance.
Right. So Melian said that it's her job to be a leader for her people and to make sure they have hope for the future or whatever. So she now talks to Dairon to come up with their plan of what they're going to do to keep people from panicking and being ruled by fear. So two of them could have a conversation that is like half philosophical and half practical. And now we just need to figure out what the practical part is. What are they actually going to do? Well, they're artists, they're musicians and dancers, and like I'm not, so I don't know how an artist thinks in that situation. Like I'm totally on board with what the dwarves are up to here about building stuff. I'm like, I got that. That makes sense to me. But
I've noticed this, and every time that I've used the phrase "dancing their cares away," you've had the same expression.
Yeah.
In response to that.
So I feel like we need input from someone who understands that kind of personality better than I do.
Okay. Well, I can tell you. What if Dairon is thinking that, because they know that there's things being done.
Right. This isn't a placate the people and mislead them.
Right. What if Dairon is having almost like an existential crisis in a way, where he feels like he's wasting his time?
Right. Like he should be gearing up for war because that's what his people are doing.
Right. Yeah.
And so Luthien is telling him there's another way we can help.
Yes. Yeah. Dairon feels like he should be helping more practically. Could Luthien exhibit some elvish singing magic to show that it does do something helpful?
I think she should just say, let's try it my way. And like he goes along with her and it does do something. Like I don't think she's going to try it on him. I think she's going to try it on a group of people and convince him that way.
Well, what if she tries it on something that's not a person?
Like the trees?
Yeah.
What is she going to do to the trees? I'm sorry. I'm just not elvish enough to figure this out.
Okay.
Or not this kind of elf. I am totally not a woodland elf. Feanorians, I understand.
Okay. So, I mean, she could... She could sing of protection and hedges grow. She can sing like there can be almost like a Finrodian kind of thing where she sings of certain things and those things happen.
Right. I sang of leaves of gold, and leaves of gold there grew. Of wind I sang, and when there came in, the branches blew.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So she can do
and if
that.
ships I now should sing. Yeah. Okay. So Luthien can do something like that to demonstrate to Dairon that weapons aren't the only thing that's powerful, which would totally be a message that Luthien is 100% behind, because she's super powerful. And does she ever pick up a weapon? Not so much.
Not one time. There's plenty of opportunities too.
Right.
It's not like it's like.
Yeah. So the point is, weapons are just not useful to her. Like she doesn't see them as anywhere near as powerful as what she can do.
Right. And she's probably not like all the elves can do this to a degree.
Yeah, but she's
obviously yeah.
So that's the thing. When Dairon does it, it's not quite as dramatic.
As right. But it does. And he can point that out. He can point that out and be like, that it doesn't need to be. She can. Her response is, it doesn't have to be.
Right. It's still doing something.
Right. Your music lifts the heart as well as, it's not just and it does have physical implications. Yeah. Like his music is not devoid of impact.
No, he's one of the greatest elvish musicians ever.
Right.
And if you think about the description of Frodo in the Hall of Fire, listening to the elves, and like as they're singing, he's seeing what they're singing about, and he's not even sure he's still awake. Like elvish music's pretty powerful stuff.
Right.
And that's just like random musician in Rivendell. This is greatest musician ever. So he should be pretty strong in what he can do, and his songs should be fairly potent. Like that, this is not a weak thing at all.
Right. Okay. So that's our third scene. Scene 4 should be the surveying team.
Right. So this is Norn leading the dwarves of Belagost, and who would show him where the river is?
Well, I think Celeborn. We need to be following him. We need to be on it.
So Celeborn takes him to the river Esgaldoin and says, "Here's the river," and that's so like, what do you need? What are you looking for? And then Norn can lay out his plan of, well, we need to find a place where there's a drop off, so there's like a cliff next to the river, so that you have protection on that side, and we're looking for a higher spot instead of a lower spot. Like whatever his
right. Yes.
This size. Yes.
I understand medieval castle defense. Yes.
Right. But would Celeborn?
No, not even.
That's
a little
my
bit.
point. Is that Norn needs to explain all this stuff. I wasn't explaining that to you. I was
okay. I got
explaining
you.
it to Celeborn.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, I didn't feel like you are. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Norn describes what he's looking for. Celeborn probably doesn't know of a place that fits that description exactly.
Right. He's like, there's some, maybe, yeah. Like he would have to like be a little ambivalent there and be like, well, let's see what we can do. There's some places that are kind of like that, so that they have to check more than one place along the river, and that would explain why they.
Right. Okay. So that's our midpoint.
Right. So now we go back to the frame. And now we can get Estel's reaction to being called a nursemaid or whatever.
Right. Hamilcar and his friends mocking Estel.
And it can be like Hamilcar's younger siblings who are in the crowd of kids that are around Estel, because we met them in the last episode, so it makes sense to bring them back in here.
Yes.
I can't remember how many brothers and sisters he's supposed to have, but whatever.
We have created at least one.
Yeah, exactly. There are some kids involved, and
yes,
and they don't have a mom, so of course, like a new person wanting to pay attention to them is pretty exciting for them.
Yes. The only question I have is, I don't think we want this to come to blows just yet.
Right, because, well, that would be the obvious reason for his dad to drag him aside and be like, "Hey, leave Estel alone."
Right, but if we want that to be kind of the
the end.
Right.
So we get the first insult here, and then Estel tries to prove himself in some way.
Like what?
Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, he has to at least have some kind of comeback. Like, well, at least I've done this, or you don't know anything about such and such, or, you know, it's just somewhere I'm not nearly as dumb and useless as you think I am, which would
well, there's a reason why he's been learning all these stories.
Right. He's way more educated than them.
Right.